Good morning, Monday, November 2nd. Welcome. This is session 5, Meditation 102. So it's actually the 12th session. Let's begin by setting our motivation and intention. We will say the prayer known as the Four Immeasurables. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings not be separated from the happiness that has never known suffering. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment, anger, and aversion. We're going to really focus on meditation today. We've been doing a lot of discussion about Dharma, karma, cause and effect, and some reincarnation, and all kinds of things like that. But what brought us here was meditation. Why do we meditate? I'm asking you that question today. So when I open the Q&A after our first session today, I want to have answers from you why we meditate. So if you could participate in that discussion, it would be really helpful. With that said, we're going to do 3 sessions today of meditation, 3 9-minute sessions, which I think would add up probably to the most we've done. And I want to get started right away with 9 minutes. So let's get into our posture. Straight back, legs folded, head at a comfortable angle, tongue but behind the top teeth where the roof of your mouth meets your top teeth. Your mouth can be open or closed, but your jaw should be relaxed. If it's open, just slightly open. You know the drill. Really focus, when I start the timer, really focus on going, focusing on the breath. We breathe through the nose, focus on the space between the nose and mouth where the air goes in and out. Relaxed breath. And really make an effort to recognize the fact that you're thinking. Just recognize the fact that you're thinking. And when you do, go back to the breath. If the imagery helps you with the clear sky, the stainless, limitless, clear blue sky, and the thoughts appearing like a cloud and then dissolving like a cloud, or emotions having the same kind of rise and fall, if that helps, use it. But that's not essential. What is essential is to recognize your thinking and then go back to the breath. Not follow the thought, not judge the thought, not push the thought away, just recognize it and go back to the breath. That's the key. That's really the crux of what we're doing. We're working with our mind, with our thoughts, with our emotions. We're recognizing the fact that these thoughts and emotions will arise in the mind, but they will also dissolve back into the mind. Let's do 9 minutes. Good. This is really the essential part of a spiritual practice, not just Buddhist, because what you're cultivating, mindful awareness, which is kind of the beginning of waking up, really. Okay, I'm going to take some questions. Sharon says, namaste. Namaste, Sharon. I'm not sure what namaste actually means. I think it means peace. I meditate to benefit all beings and spread out as much compassion in the world. That's a good answer. Thank you, Sharon. I'm glad you're with us today. Wesley says, I meditate for life, clarity, guidance, and recovery. Nyla says, I meditate as I find it eases my anxiety and helps me to appreciate the world in more detail and stay present. Caitlin says, we meditate to overcome our mortal suffering and to settle into a peaceful, tranquil, open state. I would say, although I'm new to this, we meditate to cope and for our health. There are probably as many reasons to meditate, though there are as many people who try it. We are all one, but individual aspects of all one. With perspective brings a lot of life. Louise says, meditation for me allows me to reconnect with my body and be able to be more aware of what is happening physically and how my thoughts, emotions, and behavior impact on me, not only cognitively, but physically. As time has progressed, I meditate to change and be more mindful of my values, behavior, actions, and be more at peace. I then hope this creates a positive change. Tyler says, I meditate for 2 reasons. First, to help deal with OCD, obsessive intrusive thoughts. Working with my mind helps strengthen the distance between myself and my thoughts. And the obsessions still happen, but I can be aware of what's happening and avoid some of pitfalls that come with these thoughts. Secondly, I meditate to try to find a better sense of calm so I do not react from a place of emotion. Admittedly, I still need to improve in that area, as we all do, Tyler. Sharon says, Namaste means the divine in me honors the divine in you. Thank you for clearing that up. Claire says, I meditate to remind myself that my mind and thoughts are worth spending time with. Susie says, I meditate to attempt to quiet my mind. Neil says, I meditate for love and collected personal growth. John says, I started meditating to relax and focus on my goals and how to become a better person. Also to send good vibes and good health to my brothers and sisters in the world. Alexandra says to find and maintain peace and spread love, compassion, and kindness to those around me. Phil says, I meditate to force myself to slow down, try to heal my brain and body. It was actually prescribed by both my doctor and therapist for depression and anxiety. Nur Sultan says, we meditate to be able to see our mind, thoughts, and emotions. Usually we let our mind be unconscious, but being conscious is probably the most crucial part of feeling compassion and understanding of the universe and everyone and everything in it. Courtney says, I started meditating to find stillness and mindfulness that I knew was missing. Jelena says, I meditate to reconnect with what is true to me, to reconnect with myself, to help release resentment and sadness. Susmita says, I wanted to try and meditate because I've recently been through some difficult times. I needed to find something to help clear and calm my mind, to help me not react to things happening in the same way as I did before. Tanya says, I'm in a weird stage and do not know what to do with life. I think I meditate to reconnect with myself and clear out all the surrounding noise. Heather says, I'm here because my doctor and counselor suggested it. I'm still learning, but I'm trying to put some distance between my thoughts and reacting to those thoughts. Donna says, I started to meditate to calm myself and bring me peace. I've learned that by meditating, it will help my outside world by bringing calmness and peace there as well. Okay, I'll read some more in a bit. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, all those reasons are legitimate, of course, and important. Often, there's one reason that brings us here to meditation, and then as we start to learn it, and if we're learning about Dharma, we'll learn often, there's the individual picture. Something in you felt missing, something in you was disturbed, something in you was facing difficulty, and you wanted to do something to bring peace to your mind. And then when we practice, we realize the bigger picture is that everything we experience through our mind. Everything, right? Without our mind, there's nothing. We don't really exist. We don't perceive. We don't interact. So everything we perceive is through the mind, and we perceive the whole world through the mind. So in that sense, the whole world and our mind is one. And in that sense, we and the whole world is one. So your inner state and your relationship to the world are one and the same, really. And as you work on your inner state of being, your relationship and your interaction to everything, the world, the universe, changes as well as your relationship to your own inner being and inner workings change. The same reflection will happen in the world, your relationship to the world. Which is why we dedicate in the beginning, may all beings have happiness, may all beings be free from suffering, because in essence, we're not separate. You know, if our mind is so limitless, there's no, I mean, when we talk about the mind as the sky, you know, there's no limits to the mind. The mind can perceive everything, you know, when you open your mind up. So, you know, motivating yourself to benefit all beings is no different than motivating to benefit yourself in a way. So why not go for the whole, the whole 9 yards? And then at the end we dedicate, because if you're meditating and practicing to benefit all beings, that brings a certain amount of merit, because it's a virtuous activity, and virtuous activity creates merit, good karma. And instead of that good karma just being created for our own benefit, we will dedicate it to the benefit of all beings. Because if all beings are benefited, we're benefited. And if we're benefited, we can dedicate that benefit to all beings. I mean, and these are not the easiest concepts, you know, that doesn't negate the fact that, you know, your doctor told you to meditate because you were dealing with anxiety and stress. It doesn't negate that. It doesn't diminish the importance of that. It just, you know, they're part and parcel of the same thing. That's what I'm trying to say. If we start to think that way, we're going to progress spiritually a lot. If we start thinking that working on ourselves, if we dedicated, if we're motivated to work on ourselves because we want to be a benefit to all beings, we're going to notice a lot of growth in our spiritual progress, whatever that means to you. Becoming a more compassionate person, becoming a more mindful person, becoming the person that you want to be, and rather than victim to habitual patterns that you've had maybe for your whole life, habitual emotional reactions that somehow are destructive, that are often destructive, that get in the way of your personal relationships, that get in the way of how you want to behave in the world. And it starts with this practice, you know, you're cultivating mindfulness, you're cultivating awareness, you're cultivating mindful awareness. And at the same time, you're doing it with the perspective of compassion and bringing benefit to all beings. Let's meditate again for 9 minutes. Great. Mind looking at mind. You know, that's really what we're doing. Think about what that means. So there's a mind that's thinking, right? Then there's a mind that's observing the fact that you're thinking. And the mind that's observing the fact that you're thinking is much more essential to who you are, much more powerful, because the thoughts you notice, the thoughts come and go. And sometimes you'll never have the same thought again. Sometimes you will, but sometimes you never will think about the same thing again. It just arises and dissolves. Yet the mind, the consciousness that's watching this is always the same. We've done this before. Let's take a 2-minute break. If you can, get up, move around, do something physical. Drink a glass of water, take a bite to eat, go to the bathroom, wash your face, rather on a physical level, rather than checking your phone or emails or things like that, or engaging mentally in something physical, just for 2 minutes, and keep the same awareness. Mind looking at mind, becoming aware that you're thinking, go back to the breath. Keep the breath as the anchor during this brief break. I'm going to talk about a book. Our producer may have it. Patience, it's called, by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. who's a very great Buddhist teacher. He has many centers around the world. He's written a lot of books. Zopa means patience in Tibetan. So Zopa is his middle name. Actually, it's actually my middle name, believe it or not. My Dharma name is Konchuk Zopa Sonam, given to me by my teacher, Garchen Rinpoche. When you take refuge, which means you're taking vows to become a Buddhist, you take it with a teacher who becomes essentially what they call root guru, root lama. I say I'm a student of Garchen Rinpoche because I took refuge with him. There's other reasons as well, but this is suffice for now. In Tibetan tradition, there's a lot of emphasis put on devotion to one's lama, to one's teacher, one's guru. Not in a worship way, not in a cult-like way, but devotion to one's guru, one's teacher, is considered even more important than devotion to the Buddha. And your own teacher is considered in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition more important than the Buddha himself, because it is your teacher that is giving you the Dharma in this life. So there's an enormous amount of emphasis put on devotion. Anyway, when you take refuge, you're given the Dharma name. In this tradition, it's a Tibetan name. So mine was Konchuk Zopa Sonam. Zopa means patience, and Garchen Rinpoche said to me, patience is the key to your practice, because when you lose your patience, you lose your love. I may have spoken about this before, but I'm going to speak about it again. So that was, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe more or less. And, you know, when he said it, I was like, oh, yeah, okay. You know, patience is the key to my practice. When you lose your patience, you lose your love. And you kind of take it for granted. It sounds very pithy, simple, simplistic, if almost. And as time went on, you know, and you got deeper into the practice and the teachings, and really start to understand a bit more of who this teacher is, I started to think about what he said that day. It's like, now this is the day you become a Buddhist. It's a very important moment. And this is what he told me about patience. So I started saying, maybe I should really investigate that and look into it, not just take it at surface level. What is patience? You know, I mean, we take that for granted, you know, forbearance, you know, what is it? And remaining calm in the face of, you know, obstacles or the irritants or things like that. But what is patience? Patience takes mindfulness, first of all, right? Because patience presupposes that you're being kind of affected or irritated or pushed or prodded or something. So you need patience to endure it in a way that's positive and not responding out of anger or in a negative way. Patience and mindfulness kind of go together, almost the same thing. And I started thinking deeper into what that meant and why he would give me that as an instruction and as a name, and really try to make that a bigger and bigger part of my practice and my life. You know, I mean, we just got up and did something physical, trying to maintain a certain level of awareness that we're cultivating in meditation. You know, it's really part and parcel of the practice is to start to bring that kind of mindful awareness to our daily lives and to our interaction with the world and with other people in particular. So this book is Patience, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and it's called A Guide to Shantideva's sixth chapter. Now, Shantideva is a very famous Buddhist teacher, writer. Shantideva wrote a classic book called A Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, which is a very, very famous text in Buddhism, written over 1,300 years ago. Shantideva was, like we are, worked on our mind says it right here, worked on his mind until he became completely free from delusion. In fact, Shantideva was in the monastery, and he was looked at as kind of an idiot before he began teaching, or anyone knew he could teach. He was kind of an inept monk and was kind of looked down upon by other monks and monks that maybe were higher than him. And monks have a tradition in certain schools of debating ideas, debating concepts. And I think as a joke, someone challenged him to a debate and expected him to really embarrass himself. And he began to recite what became the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, which is this kind of seminal, Buddhist text. And everyone just realized that he was basically enlightened, and he was among them all this time, and he was just this brilliant, realized mind, and all who didn't know that were humbled by it. So never judge a book by its cover, right? That's the other thing. Although we can judge this book by its cover because it has the great Lama Zopa Rinpoche on it. But, so chapter 6 in Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life deals with patience. There are many different, I think, editions and versions of the, Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. I encourage you to find one, Shantideva. It's a very important Buddhist text. But let's just read a little bit. So he kind of, they print the stanzas from the actual text of Shantideva, and then he comments on it. So I'll read some of his comment. Compassion for all sentient beings, with the exception of one, the one we consider our enemy, is not great compassion. And without great compassion, bodhicitta and enlightenment are impossible. Bodhicitta is, that kind of limitless compassion for all beings, loving kindness and compassion towards all beings, rather than conditioned compassion and loving kindness, for those we like, those we're attached to, our family, our friends, those we feel worthy of compassion and loving kindness. Bodhicitta goes beyond that, beyond our worldly criterion of who's deserving and who's not, and, realizes the ultimate nature of reality, that we are inseparable from each other and from the world, and that all beings are worthy of compassion and loving kindness, whether or not they know it. Right? Great compassion entails not only the wish for all sentient beings to be free from all suffering, but also the determination that we ourselves will free them. This great compassion therefore relies on each and every sentient being. It includes our friends and those we consider strangers, but it also includes our enemies. Shantideva compared the field of sentient beings to a Buddha field. Because farmers rely on their fields of crops to earn their living, they take very good care of them, watering them, fertilizing them, protecting them from frost, and so forth. They think their crops are extremely precious. In exactly the same way, if we use the field of sentient beings to plant the thoughts of loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, we reap the crop of full enlightenment. When we understand that all sentient beings are the field from which we receive happiness, up to and including enlightenment, we will naturally want to take the best possible care of them, serving them in whatever way is best to repay their kindness. That's a very big concept, but that's Buddhism. We say the prayers, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but the prayers that we say, like the motivation prayer, the four measurables, and our dedication, praying that all beings achieve the state of Buddhahood. Our dedication prayer at the end, we say, by this merit may all beings attain the state of enlightenment. That's what he's saying here. But then we hope for our enemies to be unhappy, or we feel miserable when we see that they have some success. That makes no sense at all. To want happiness for our friends, but not for our enemies, is to destroy any chance we have to develop bodhicitta, bringing suffering to them and to us. We should practice patience by not being unhappy when we hear our enemy has received something good, or not rejoicing when we hear they are suffering in some way. We can go further than that, however. We can rejoice when our enemy receives good things. We can learn to see them as others do and admire them too. So remember, this is not saying that we wish say a person we consider evil, or someone who's doing wrong or doing harm to other beings or to the world. We're not saying we want them to increase their ability to do that. What we're wishing for is true happiness for them, which is true happiness comes from a compassionate, loving mind. That's what we're wishing for. We're not wishing for them to be able to further their evil, negative activities. That's the difference, Nor are we allowing people who are evil or unkind or harmful to us to, if we consider them to be sadistic and it gives them pleasure to be harmful, that's not what we're wishing for, so you allow them to be harmful. That's not at all what he's saying. You wish happiness because true happiness comes from a loving mind, and real compassion and great compassion. So if your enemies or someone who's doing evil, doing harm, has some realization of great compassion, bodhicitta, then he or her not going to do harm anymore, right? That's what they are talking about. That's what Buddhism is. We'll answer a couple of more questions, and then we'll meditate some more. Enlightenment and happiness for enemies or harmful people perhaps reduce their harm should they attain that. Exactly, Caden. That's exactly what we're talking about here. Michael, do you have daily practices that keep you mindful throughout? For example, I make myself walk at a semi-slowed rate that I remind myself to concentrate on my breathing as I'm doing my day-to-day activities. Yeah, that's very similar to what we just did. There's a practice called walking meditation, which is a meditational practice where you're walking, but you're keeping mindfulness and trying to work with the thoughts as we do in sitting meditation. The trick is sometimes walking meditation turns into just taking a walk, calmly taking a walk, which is really not the point. And you may get lost in the thought material of the walk itself rather than actually working with the thoughts, using mind to observe mind, liberating these thoughts. But the more you practice meditation, the more you're going to start to, the more you're going to start to dwell and abide in mindful awareness. And it'll naturally, as it becomes a habit, it becomes a routine, it'll naturally start to infuse itself into your daily routine and your daily life when you see its positive effects, and when you see how it's positive, how it positively works on your day-to-day life, and you'll want more of it. It hopefully is a cumulative effect. Joe says, what are your feelings towards good people who seem to experience frequent bad karma, such as serious illness, death to loved ones, etc.? Well, we've spoken about that, in the past, about karma. Buddhist point of view, when you are going through difficult experiences, and this is very hard for people who are not familiar to Buddhism, often very hard for them to swallow. Difficult experiences are the result of bad karma, karma that we've created, actions that we've taken in our past, not only this life, but previous lifetimes, because Buddhism, one of the beliefs of Buddhism is reincarnation. So the Buddhist point of view is when you are going through difficult times and suffering, that to try to maintain an awareness that basically you are burning off the karma created from those negative deeds. And once you go through this difficult time, that karmic debt is now paid off. So there can be an element of rejoicing. That's very hard to do, especially when you're in a lot of pain and you're suffering and loss and things like that. But rather than just succumb to despair, woe is me, why me? Why is this happening? This is horrible. And it is. Difficult times are difficult and loss is painful. But to have some perspective on somewhere in my past and maybe past lives, I committed an action that was harmful to others, harmful to myself, created a karmic seed. The karmic seed has now ripened at this moment in my life, and I'm experiencing the result of these actions and deeds. But once I go through this suffering, this result of this act, that whatever negative karma was created from that moment, that deed in the past life, is paid off and is done with, and I'm moving on. Jelena says how to maintain healthy boundaries while having compassion to all, even those who harm you. You know, it's kind of what I was talking about, you know, like saying letting somebody harm you is not the answer, because then you're allowing them to create negative karma. You're allowing them to create negative deeds, and that's not the point. The point is not just to be like some kind of martyr or masochist even, and allow harm to come to you, allow people to commit harm. It's more understanding and having compassion that when someone commits a negative action, somebody commits harm, acts out of hate, to know that they're creating conditions that are going to cause them to suffer in the future. And maybe not in this lifetime, maybe in their next lifetime when they're an innocent baby or child or something, you know. So that's where the practice of compassion can come in, because you know that when someone commits a negative deed, they're going to suffer. They're going to suffer the result of that at some point. And the boundary, you make in terms of what you need. You don't let people, you don't want to let people cheat you or harm your loved ones. You create boundaries by, being honest, and calling out things and calling out cruelty and calling out, injustice. I think there's something, being an activist in terms of some kind of, human rights or social justice or things like that. That's about being honest and, wanting to create and support positive advancements in society. If you believe in them very strongly, I think there's a big connection to that kind of activism and Buddhism. So you create boundaries as you would, The thing is to have a mind looking at mind perspective, instead of just saying, I hate him, he's evil, look at what he's doing, and accusing and condemning. Create your boundaries, but at the same time have a wider view, saying, cultivating some kind of compassion, even wishing for the happiness of that individual. And I'm not saying happiness out of this person's greedy and they get more money, they're happy. That's not true happiness. That's just greed, satisfying greed. I mean the happiness of realization, of enlightenment, being free from suffering. Okay, let's meditate for 9 more minutes, and then we'll call it a day. A lot of meditation today, which I'm very happy about. That is why we're here. Straight back, not too rigid. Legs crossed or folded. That's how I do it. You can cross them how you like. If you're in a chair, have your hips higher than your knees and your feet on the ground, if you can. Breathe through the nose if you can, in and out. If you can't, do what you can do. Head tilted at a comfortable angle. Shoulders relaxed. Body is relaxed, not rigid and tight. That's very important. Hands can be on your lap, palm to the back of the hand and curved in the lap. If you're uncomfortable, adjust, shift if you have to. You don't have to feel locked into the position. Tibetan Buddhist tradition often is eyes open, but the eyes Eyes are not, sorry, I'm going to start the timing. So you already settle into this position. Eyes are not fixed intensely on anything, nor are they spaced out and unfocused, resting lightly on whatever's in front of you. You can bring something inspiring, like a flower, like a photograph of a teacher or of some kind of deity, or a view out the window, a painting, artwork, or nothing. Breathe through the nose and settle and relax. The breath is our anchor. I'm going to try to stay with the breath. Focus on the place between the nose and the upper lip where the air goes in and out. When you feel lost in thought, because you're going to start to think, that is what the mind does. The point is to recognize your thinking and go back to the breath. We use the image of the clear, unstained, limitless sky, full of potentiality, still, clear, spotless. That is our mind. That is our Buddha mind that we all have. And it's a matter of clearing out lifetime after lifetime of habits, negative thoughts, negative karma, habitual actions, habitual ways of thinking, habitual ways of behaving. And we clear through that. Like, it's almost like they say, when you have a glass of water from a lake or from a river, it has sediment in it. If you leave it and let it be still, it'll become clear. All the sediment will go to the bottom and the water will be clear. That's what we're doing. In the stillness comes the clarity. Through the stillness and of the stillness comes the clarity. So in that image of the sky, the thought is like the cloud which arises from the sky, but dissolves into the sky, and it does not affect the sky once it's gone. Even its arising, it's in the sky, but it doesn't really affect the sky. It doesn't really do anything to the sky. It doesn't permanently scar it or damage it or alter it in any way. Same with our spotless mind. Thoughts and emotions come and go like clouds and storms. Okay. Next week we're gonna do Sunday, not Monday. Wanted to do it yesterday, but there was some scheduling problems. It'll probably be either 2 or 3 in the afternoon Pacific, which would be 5 or 6 Eastern US, which would be like Europe, like evening 10, 11. But we're trying to give our friends in Asia and Australia, New Zealand an opportunity where it's not 2 in the morning. And Sunday, a lot of people work Monday. So let's see how it goes. We'll see what the response is. Thank you for being here today. Let's dedicate our merit. By this merit, may all beings attain the state of enlightenment and conquer the enemies of faults and delusions. May they be liberated from this ocean of samsara and its pounding waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Thank you. We will see you next week.